Being very entitled and controlling, narcissists have no difficulty stepping all over your personal boundaries. So that's why I put together an extensive video class called This Is Me. It has 25 videos, written documents, guided questions. I'm going to teach you how to have healthy boundaries. There's a link below, and I hope you'll find it to be quite therapeutic. As we begin today, let's keep in mind that one of the goals that narcissists have in their life, and it involves you, is they don't want to take responsibility for their many different dysfunctions. They need a foil, and that's where you come in. They need somebody that they can put the blame of their many problems into. And so constantly, narcissists are looking for ways to make you feel like you're the blame for their problems. They want you to begin doubting the validity of you being you so that they can elevate themselves at your expense. And it's a rather dastardly kind of scheme that they have. It's a strategy that they live with. And this gaslighting is something that they do over and over. Now, wouldn't it be nice if we could just put that narcissistic person in a room, with a chair right in front of you, and a spotlight on them, and say, okay, we're gonna go with some questions here. I want to talk with you about this gaslighting stuff, and I want to see if we can get to the bottom of this. Well, A, we can't do that physically, and B, even if you could, it's not like they're going to give you straight answers anyway, but I want to see if we can zero in on 10 different questions that we could ask that narcissist potentially that would expose how gaslighting is such a central theme to who they are. And so let's just go right into it, because as we are able to zero in on these questions, at least it can give you clarity about what you're dealing with so that you're not going to get caught up in the spin that they're wanting to put into your mind. Okay, so the first question that I would like to ask would just be something simple like, would you like to tell me, why are you the way that you are? Now, if you were to ask a narcissist that question, it would catch them off guard, because, of course, the implication is something's wrong here, and there's some choice that's going along with that something wrong. Why do you act toward me the way that you do that's predictably difficult? Now, like I say, you're never going to get a straight answer, because narcissists will immediately go into some sort of a denial, something to the effect of, what are you talking about? Or I don't know what you got up your sleeve, but it's not accurate. And so they're just going to sidestep it, which is part of their gaslighting. They don't want to answer that kind of question, and they don't want to ask themselves a question like that. Why am I the way that I am? They would much rather just put it on to you. A second question that I'd like to ask is, why do you feel that it's necessary to mistreat the few decent people that you still have left in your life? One of the crazy things is, my guess is that part of the reason the narcissist keeps hanging out with you is they can get away with it. You try your best to be somebody that goes along to get along. And so if there's some sort of problem, they're just going to pin it onto you, and they'll say, well, the reason I had problems is because of you, and it's always someone else's fault, and it's always you. And so they'll mistreat you even though you're trying to be decent. What's going on there? And again, it's their way of saying, I don't take responsibility for who I am. A third question I'd like to ask is, where does this chronic agitation and annoyance that resides on the inside of you, where does that come from? Now, actually, that's a nice way of saying, why are you so angry? But they'll scoff at that. But you'll notice that they carry this chronic undertow of anger and tension. And of course, they'll say, the reason I'm feeling angry and tense or agitated is because of you. It's like, no, it's tied to something much deeper. Again, they don't want to take responsibility for what they carry inside. It's much easier to say, you're to blame. Another question we could ask, a fourth one, is, would you like to talk with me about what you feel that you gain when you belittle other individuals? Now, you know and I know that when you belittle someone else, it's your way of trying to elevate yourself at someone else's expense. Do you remember a ditty that I've used before? You have to be little to belittle. These individuals are in constant compensation mode. They feel very inadequate, but if they think, well, there's somebody over there, you, that's lower than me, somehow that makes them the king of the hill or the queen of the hill. Go figure. A fifth question that we might ask that would kind of get to the heart of who they are is, why do discussions with you so easily turn into a competition? You'll notice that there might be times when you'll say, well, let's talk about why this happened or how we're going to manage this, or I wasn't too pleased with this, but maybe we can look at this alternative. And instead of them saying, well, I'd like to hear from you, tell me more about what's going on, instead they go into the invalidating mode. You're wrong, I'm right. And again, that's part of the gaslighting. It's their way of saying, if there's something that we need to discuss, do not look to me to be somebody who's going to be a provider of answers. I provide accusations. That's what I do. Of course, they're not honest enough to say that. Or a sixth question that we might want to ask them is, why are you so secretive? And of course, along with that, they tell lies, or they give false impressions, and they tell half-truths. They just allow some people to assume things about them that might be flattering that aren't accurate. Why do you feel such a need to be secretive? And they'll more or less put it on the people out there. It's like, well, if I tell everybody everything there is to know about me, I just live with a bunch of idiots, and so I don't want to have to do that. They don't want to take responsibility for that, so they gaslight you into thinking that if there is something that's hidden from you, it's your fault. It couldn't possibly be theirs. And so the reason they keep things to themselves is because they don't trust other individuals, which is true. They don't trust. They just don't trust, period. Or a seventh question that I'd like to ask is, do you ever feel sad when you've threatened others or treated others poorly? Now, you know that they're not going to say, yeah, I walk around with a great deal of sadness and concern whenever I've treated someone poorly. It's like, no, they don't. They may have agitation, but they don't feel sad. They don't feel responsible for any kind of negative contributions. If you do feel poorly, or if there's been something negative coming in your direction, it's your fault, and they want to believe the narrative, I'm really good, and so if there's difficulties, it has to be someone else. That's part of their gaslighting. That's part of their dishonesty. That's part of their unwillingness to take responsibility. An eighth question we might ask is, how did you decide that it's really okay for you to decide how everyone else is supposed to be? You ever notice that narcissist has a strong agenda, and they're not at all bashful in letting you know what that agenda is supposed to be? They use a lot of directives and a lot of unsolicited advice. Who appointed you? And of course, they're going to imply the only reason when I talk with you about how things are supposed to be is because you're too dumb to figure it out for yourself. They may say that out loud, or they certainly they believe that to be on the inside. That's part of their gaslighting toward you. How about another one? And that is, why are my separate opinions and perspectives so threatening to you? You'll notice that as part of them not taking responsibility for themselves and trying to make you out to be the bad person, their presumption is, well, I'm the only one in the room that has correct opinions, and I'm the only one who interprets things rightly. And so when you come along and say, well, hang on a minute, there's something else that we can consider, it's like, no, we don't do that. That's their gaslighting, because they refuse to acknowledge there are so many different ways to examine people and events and circumstances. And in their mind, it's like, no, there's really only one. And when you know it happens to be my own way of looking at it, they're messing with you when they take that kind of approach. Or a 10th question that we might want to ask them, and that is, at what point in your life did you actually allow yourself to think that you're superior? You'll notice that so much of this need of the narcissist to be above you, to take no responsibility for themselves and put it on to you, has to do with this false sense of superiority. They have this condescension toward you. Let's dive into that. And the narcissist will say, if they're honest, no way, I'm not diving into that. Let's just go ahead and declare you inferior into discussion, and I can move my happy way. Keep in mind that so much of the whole narcissistic pattern is to gaslight you and to keep you on your heels. But in doing so, they're in constant denial of who they are. They use a lot of what I refer to as boomerang communication. You say something to them, they just throw it right back at you, which then means that they also use the technique of asking separate questions of you to keep the focus off themselves, and it's all a part of their defense mechanism of projection. They'll see in you the things that they won't deal with on the inside of themselves, and basically, they're going to let you know that you're just nothing but a troublemaker, you're an ingrate, you're just somebody that is making their life miserable, and they play the victim card. That's part of their gaslighting, and basically they can't be honest with you, and they'll just constantly hedge on their contributions to the difficulties that come between yourself and them. So I'm hoping that as you zero in on these kinds of questions that potentially we could ask a narcissist, you know they're not going to be able to answer those questions honestly. But I'm hoping it can make you realize these are individuals who do not want to be confronted. They don't want to come to terms with the truth about what they are and how they treat you inappropriately. They simply want to keep you in a state of your own confusion so that they can somehow feel like they've won the game. We're not going to go into this. I'm hoping you can say, I'm on to you. You're a troubled person who wants to excuse yourself by trying to make me responsible for the tensions that you generate. I'm not playing along with your unhealthy narrative. Not going to do it. Now, I hope that videos such as this can give you some good awareness of what you might be dealing with. Here on Team Healthy, knowledge is power, and I want us to live into the characteristics of dignity, respect, and civility. If you've not already hit that subscribe button, I would encourage you to do so. We're going to keep more videos coming your direction. Gus and I will keep more. Gus isn't going to gaslight you, I promise. He's just going to sit there, and he's actually listening here today. I'm encouraged for him. If you have a need to unpack this with a licensed professional therapist, I'm pleased that I've been sponsored now for years by the people at BetterHelp.com. It's a whole team of licensed professional therapists who can assist you with online therapy. It's become very popular. It's very accessible and very affordable way to get the help that you would need. There's a link below that would take you to their services if that's something that you would find to be most beneficial. Also, we have my courses, and these are very extensive online classes that you can sign up for, and they each contain multiple videos with teaching documents and guided questions. We have Ready, Set, Connect about connection skills, Free to Be about finding yourself despite the controllers. This is me establishing your boundaries. We also have my webinars, and we're building up a library of those. In addition, we have my Surviving Narcissism podcast. We have our website with many articles, and we have my books, plenty of resources for you to avail yourself to. Narcissists do not want to examine who they are. They don't want to take responsibility. What they want is to keep you confused. But as you zero in on the kind of questions we're talking about, you'll realize, no, it's those people that are confused. They don't know how to do life well at all. That being the case, I'm hoping you can see yourself as separate and distinct from those individuals, because you want to be the kind of person that says, I'm on a path toward peace. And that's something that's most important to me, and that narcissist is not going to get in your way of finding, in fact, your peace.